Hello and welcome back to another installment of Fodder, and today's video is not one that I really wanted to make, rather it's one that I feel like I need to make. With Jurassic World Alive version 2.0, the developers really went through a painstaking process of trying to group almost everything into 4 different categories: the cunning, the fierce, the resilient, and then the wild card, which is literally a wild card group. And while that works out just fine when there are no hybrids involved, because you have base creatures, you can really hone them in and categorize them into one of those 4 groups. Whenever you start introducing hybrids that go outside of their normal family, for example, you have a fierce combined with a resilient, you start to run into a little bit of problem with how the paper rock scissors version of this game is supposed to work if you carry a lot of the attributes from both families onto the new hybrid. And the waters get even more muddy whenever you start getting up into super hybrids, where now you have 2 resilience and a fierce and maybe a cunning all grouped into one specific creature. One thing that you can do to mitigate some of this overpoweredness is to have a predominant family, say the resilient, carry forward through to the super hybrid, and then that creature carries some lesser attributes of its other components. And don't get me wrong here, super hybrids are supposed to be the best of the best, especially whenever you get to unique super hybrids. Those are outside of apex rarity, those are supposed to be the creme de la creme. But now we're a couple weeks into version 2.0, and some problems are really starting to arise in the battle arena with respects to super hybrids and how things are supposed to be grouped together. What I want to talk about in today's video is Ardentismaxima and how the attributes that it has make it too good for the paper rock scissors element of the game and why it needs to change. But before I get into the breakdown, I do want to let you know, if you're looking for live coverage of Jurassic World Live, you can find me over on Twitch Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays for the most part. We do raid battles, we do arena battles. Friday we will have tournament battles, and mostly we just have fun. So if you want to know when I'm live over on Twitch, make sure you are following me over on Twitter. I always post when I go live, and as always, links are down in the description below. The first thing I want to do is take a look at Ardentismaxima, just so you know where I'm coming from. If we look at this, everything is going to be at level 26, no boost, because there are infinite possibilities with boost, so I can't even go into all of that. We're just going to talk heads up and level 26 with no boost for the entirety of this video. Ardentismaxima is made up of Ardontosaurus and Brachiosaurus. Already, this is a resilient creature made up of 2 other resilient creatures. Brachy is a base creature, so it is resilient. There's no other components to this. When we get into Ardontosaurus, we see that it is a makeup of Argentinosaurus, which is a resilient creature, and Secodontosaurus, which is going to be a fierce creature. And this is where the problem begins. As a unique super hybrid, the health pool of 6,000, really don't have any problem with that. A speed of 108, probably don't have any problems with that. Armor of 15%, sounds about right. Damage of 1,300 with a crit chance of 30%. The moves for this particular creature are Resilient Strike, which is going to be a one-time attack that is going to remove dodge, cloak, and speed increases. It's also going to reduce your opponent's speed by 50% for 1 turn. Now remember, in our little trilogy here of paper, rock, scissors, resilient is supposed to counter cunning. That is what this move does. It is Resilient Strike. It does exactly as advertised. The problem is, resilient moves just do too much. This is very similar to Owlraptor Gen 2 in version 1.13, I believe, where it wasn't the creature that was broken, it was the move Cautious Strike that was broken, because it did everything. And I think that's a situation here, where Resilient Strike just does too much. It removes dodge, cloak, and speed increase, and then it reduces speed by 50% for 1 turn. Now, it's supposed to counter cunning creatures, so it sounds good, but basically what that does is it counters cunning creatures more than cunning creatures counter fierce or fierce counter resilient. Moving on, we have Ardentismaxima. It's going to reduce speed by 50% for 2 turns as a 2x attack with a 2-turn cooldown. Not quite as broken because it doesn't remove the dodge and the cloak or the speed increase, but at the same time, like, it does what it's supposed to do. There's not really much that you would expect out of something that's going to counter cunning creatures which are known to be fast, other than to slow them down. So that makes sense. Then you have Taunt Shattering Rampage. It is another 2x attack that is going to remove taunt and shields. So now Ardentismaxima can remove shields, can remove dodge, can remove cloak, remove speed increases, and then slow down its opponent 50%, where basically you're not really ever going to get the speed lead back. And then on top of that, just for good measure, we're going to throw in instant invincibility taunt. It's going to be a shield that deflects 100% of damage for 2 attacks lasting 1 turn. The problem here is if by some chance you are slower than your opponent, say a cunning creature, and this is why it's here. If the cunning creature is faster, you go instant invincibility. It's a priority move. You're going to put up your shield. Your cunning opponent is going to attack into you and hit the shield. The problem is it's going to be your opponent's turn again. They're going to use another cunning attack because not many cunning creatures even have the ability to break shields. So when they attack again, your shield is still up. I don't know if that's the way that this was intended, but that is extremely broken. Because now all you have to do is use your Ardentismaxima, you have the speed lead, or you can use your resilient strike and just absolutely eliminate all cunning creatures. And to top all that off, there is a slew of resistances ranging from not being able to slow it down, can't really distract it, it can't be swap prevented, it's just really good, and it should be. It's a super hybrid. The problem here is it's too good. Whether it's the 2 rampage moves or the moves that just absolutely counter everything that you could possibly throw at this, it's making for some real unbalanced arena play. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the 5 best counters, and I'm using this term very loosely because there aren't even 5. If you think about a dino dex of over 200, we'll just say 25% of those are fierce. The fact that I can only come up with 5 sort of counters means that this creature is terribly unbalanced. The first counter I want to throw out is actually not even a counter, it's more of an honorable mention. So this one's technically not even on the list because it doesn't really counter it. The first counter I'm going to cover is just an honorable mention. It's actually not even a counter, but it should be. As a fierce creature, Dracoceratops should counter Ardentismaxima, but it doesn't. The reason why I'm giving it honorable mention is because it does have a swap-in ability that's going to do 40% rend damage. So what that means is it's going to take 40% of max HP off of the creature it swaps into. At that point, because it is faster and it does have fierce impact, which is going to do 2250 damage, that means that if you led with another creature, it only had to do 1350 damage to Ardentismaxima before you swap in to Dracoceratops in order to get the KO, thus giving it an honorable mention because heads up, it doesn't counter it. At the number 5 position is going to be Gemini Titan and Spinoconstrictor. The reason why these two are tied at number 5 is because they can win, but it's all about mind games. You have to get inside the head of your opponent and do a move at the right time, and like the stars really have to align in order for either of these creatures to be able to take out Ardentismaxima head to head. And quite honestly, the majority of the time Ardentismaxima is going to walk away from this battle victorious. But the fact that they can counter them in some way, shape, or form, and the fact that there are so few real counters, gives them a spot tied for number 5. Checking in at the 4th best counter to Ardentismaxima is going to be Spitonix. Yes, the meme of Jurassic World Alive for the most part here. Actually, is not even that great of a counter. You will be successful in taking out Ardentismaxima in 2 turns if you go bleed rampage. Unfortunately, you're actually going to get knocked out first because Ardentismaxima is going to do too much damage and knock you out on turn 2 for itself. But then the bleed that's left behind will end up taking Maxima out. So you end up doing a 1-for-1 trade here. And that's number 4. So that tells you how grim your possibilities are for truly countering Ardentismaxima. That leaves us with the top 3, and the top 3 are actually true counters. Yes, there are 3 true counters at this current time. The first one, number 3, is going to be Thylakoter. And the reason why this works out so well is because Thyla cannot be slowed down. What you're going to want to do is drop a bleed attack on turn 1, follow it up with a rend, and you will walk away with the KO. Pretty straightforward, and really one of your best options. I highly suggest between this and either of the top 2, you run at least 1, if not 2 of these on your squad. Mortimerx checks in at number 2, and the reason why it checks in at number 2 and not number 1 is because nobody has it yet. It's quite simply, that is the reason why. Mortimerx is just flat out going to do enough damage. It should. It is a fierce creature, and more fierce creatures should be countering Ardentismaxima. Maybe not as hard as Mortimerx, but definitely along these same lines. And finally, that brings us to the best counter currently in Jurassic World Alive to Ardentismaxima, our old boy Owlraptor here. Owlraptor is in a really unique spot because it is cunning fierce, and it carries a lot of the fierce characteristics with it. Most notably, it cannot be slowed down, which is going to be a huge benefit when Ardentismaxima is so good at slowing down cunning creatures. The other things that make it good are the high pounce right off the bat that's going to do 2 times damage, and then the rending takedown, which is going to do 60% of max HP damage on turn 2. And nothing else is going to take out Ardentismaxima solo. You're going to have to rely on multiple creatures, doing some swapping, setting up some advantages in order to get the KO. Or you could always just try to outboost, but as you climb up in the higher arenas, being able to do that is significantly more difficult. Hopefully this gets addressed in 2.1, whether it's through the addition of fierce creatures that directly counter Maxima, or through some stat changes, maybe taking away one of the 2 rampages, or maybe taking away the instant invincibility, or just changing how instant invincibility works so it truly only works for 1 attack instead of multiple attacks. If you liked this video or found it informative, make sure you give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and turn on alert notifications so you don't miss any of the continuing coverage of Jurassic World Alive version 2.0. That's all I've got for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and until next time.